Guys, what's up? Welcome to TSPTV, and in this episode, as you can probably see in front of you on the screen, the City of Toronto have implemented a list of fines. Below the article, we'll go into some of the things you can be fined for. Now, this came out yesterday. BlogTO, something. I think people in Toronto, they give you updates, little quirky things on restaurants or news about new store or businesses opening and stuff like this. Keeps you a little bit informed of what's going on in the city. Kind of designed a little bit for the younger crowd, but still, this is information that is coming out about the City of Toronto right now and how they are combating people who refuse to comply with the advisory orders that have been put out. Now, I was just out and about earlier on today. I went downtown, had a little look around the General Hospital very quickly, checked out Mount Sinai Sick Kids, see what was happening on the outside of these. Not so much evidence of an overwhelming tsunami of patients looking for treatment. In fact, it looked just like any other day really around the hospitals. The rest of the city did seem a little bit deserted, but nice sunny day, warmer than normal, had people out and about enjoying the sunshine and the spring. Many people sent home from work. A lot of the businesses you may have seen in those videos were closed down, but this little article goes on, so let's read this, and tells you what you can be fined about. Now, fines related to COVID-19 bylaws and emergency orders in Ontario and Toronto are what you need to know right now so you don't end up with a hole in your wallet. Police officers in Toronto and all over the province have been out and about in full force. Now, I didn't really see any evidence of police out and about in full force today in and around the downtown core of Toronto here. Hardly saw one policeman. I think I seen a couple of police cars, but didn't see any policemen on the streets at all. And they are issuing warnings and fines to those breaking COVID-19 municipal bylaws and provincial orders. There are different fines for different offences, and if you're planning to head out into society anytime soon, it's important to know exactly what you're allowed to be doing and what you can be fined for. So here's a copy of a tweet from the Chief of Police, Mark Saunders, here in Toronto. Toronto officers are patrolling parks and public squares on horsebacks and in cars on foot and to enforce public health orders. Enforce public health orders, guys. There, enforcement. Look that word up for yourself. It means to rule through fear. So they're putting cops out on bikes and horses to enforce public health orders. They just want to keep you safe. That's why they're enforcing these orders to you. And social distancing bylaw. Tickets will be issued for those not respecting the law. Please do your part to keep us all safe. Stay home, COVID hashtags. Firstly, residents of Toronto are required to follow the newly implemented social distancing bylaw. Unbelievable. Signed and approved by Mayor John Tory last week. The bylaw requires any two people who don't live together to keep 2 meters of distance between them in a park or public square. It doesn't say anything about on sidewalks. Anyone who fails to comply with the new bylaw can receive a maximum set fine of $1,000 or officers could also issue higher tickets up to $5,000 upon conviction that would be subject to the courts. Police officers across Ontario are also enforcing provincial orders banning organised social gatherings of more than 5 people, as well as bans on using closed playgrounds and other park amenities. And again, something I saw today a couple of times were gatherings of more than 5 people. A few folks were sat out on a little area in Parkdale here where they got some kind of steps, a little bit like an auditorium type thing. People were sat out there having a drink, having a smoke, enjoying the sunshine. There are a few people out and about in and around Kensington Park, but under Section 7011 of the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act, fines for violating a provincial order can range from, wait for this, $750 to $100,000, including up to 1 year in jail. Imagine that, doing a year in jail for being stood 5 feet away from somebody instead of 6 feet and having to pay a $100,000 fine. Now, it doesn't say why you can go to jail or why you can get the 100,000. It just says if you for violating these provisional orders. The city is also issuing fines to non-essential businesses that remain open despite provisional orders to shut down. On April 1st, Toronto's Medical Officer of Health also issued new directives to residents of Toronto under the Health Protection and Promotion Act. Dr. Eileen Devere has ordered all individuals with COVID-19 who aren't hospitalized, all individuals with signs and symptoms of COVID or who are waiting for their test results, and all individuals who have been in close contact with someone who has COVID-19 or has the signs and any symptoms of COVID-19 to self-isolate for 14 days. Failure to comply, and look how they put it in big words, with this order is an offence for which you may be liable on conviction to a fine of not more than $5,000 for every day or part of each day on which the offence occurs or continues, the class order states. So I'm guessing if you don't quarantine for, say you only quarantine for 3 days, then you will be fined up to $5,000 for the remainder of those days that you should have been quarantined for the other 11 days or whatever it was. So I can't even remember how many I said now, but you get what I'm trying to say. Thankfully, residents of the city are still permitted to, thankfully, look at that, are still permitted to leave their houses for essential reasons, drive around and walk outside as long as they are complying with the above mentioned measures. The enforcement blitz comes as many were slow to follow social distancing recommendations in Toronto, with hordes of people and families were congregating in parks as recently as last weekend. According to the city, people are finally getting with the program. City enforcement, I guess that's a PDF or something there you can read, or is it Twitter? I don't know. It's a tweet. City of Toronto enforcement officers see encouraging behaviour. Some problem areas persist. Early reports from frontline enforcement staff are encouraging. Many people in the city parks are practicing physical distancing and only travelling in small groups from the same household. In many instances where enforcement officers have spoken to park goers, people have responded positively to education about public health recommendations and willingly adjusted their behaviour. Adjusted their behaviour. I wonder when they're going to start unwillingly adjusting your behaviour if you don't comply with these new bylaws. Still, they said, some problem locations persist. Yesterday, 311 received 141 complaints about gatherings and unsafe behaviour at parks, and that's 141 people were snitching. Now, if you had a prison population and 141 people within inside that prison were snitches, I'm pretty sure that population of the prison would rapidly reduce by 141 within a very, very short period of time. Snitches sleep in ditches, yet here we are, people are being programmed and they think they're doing a good thing by writing out their friends for maybe going outside. And we're not saying this disease isn't real. I certainly still am on the fence as to the fact that I don't believe that it's real in the sense that it is as deadly as they're saying. No, I'm not saying COVID-19 isn't a thing. I just don't think it's a thing that we need to be taking this amount of drastic measures over and shutting down most of the popular world, and businesses boarded up, people at home, nowhere to go, uncertainty, what's wrong with maybe getting outside and getting a little bit of fresh air and stuff like this. And I think it's up to you if you decide whether you want a social distance or not. And we've mentioned before, what's going to happen if everyone did just decide, nobody went out, everybody on earth decided let's all just stay in for 21 days, and we all stayed inside our houses for 21 days, and then we went outside on the 22nd day. Would the virus have just disappeared? I don't know how it works at all, to be quite honest. In a lot of the information on it, how it works are a little conflicting also. Over the course of the day, Saturday, bylaw officers and people spoke to 780 people to educate them on public health, and I like how they use the word educate them, re-education centres on public health recommendations and closures, and cautioned 373 others. Now, Hyde Park is just down the road from where I live. I can actually see it from my front yard. and they're going to talk about closing this place up. But that's where a lot of people were out over the weekend, and also the Bluffs. And what I'm saying, people in Toronto, Canada, in general, I think once you've sort of come through those darker, colder winter months, and all of a sudden you start getting a few bright and warmer days, then, you know, having been in self-hibernation for so long, you kind of want to get out and enjoy a little bit of the sunshine and stuff. And from what I saw, some of the hospitals that I've seen here in Toronto, it doesn't really seem as though there are a great deal of people at all showing up at hospitals suffering symptoms. But then again, they're being told to stay home and self-isolate, unless of course you're Boris Johnson and you show symptoms of it, and then they'll take you to intensive care. Whether or not that's part of the script, part of the psyop, I don't know. But Boris Johnson, UK Prime Minister, has been taken to intensive care with it. Police issued 9 tickets total, while bylaws officers gave out 1 ticket related to park amenities and 5 non-essential businesses that were operating in violation of provincial orders. Toronto Public Health also received 28 complaints related to non-essential businesses remaining open and issued 2 notices. As of Sunday afternoon, this was yesterday, Toronto Public Health is reporting 1,232 cases of COVID in Toronto, and an increase of 113 from yesterday. Now, 1,232 does sound a lot. Bear in mind, Toronto has millions of in its population. You know, there's a hell of a lot of people that live in Toronto, and that kind of is a very, 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 very tiny percentage of the city that is pretty much come to a standstill. The majority of shops and stores in the downtown seem to be closed. A few restaurants are trying to get by with takeout orders, only takeout or pickup. Of the cases, 69 have recovered, 140 are in hospital, and 58 are in ICU. In Toronto, there have been 25 deaths thus far, and community spread is responsible for 25% of the COVID cases in the city. So that's pretty much reducing service on the go because it falls by 9 cents. So that's pretty much it, but it's pretty scary stuff, especially the 1 year in imprisonment and the $100,000 fine. It kind of weren't exactly too forthcoming in letting us know exactly what you have to do in order to warrant such punishment and sentencing for breaking whatever bylaws it was. But certainly looks as though it is, you know, once we've seen the tip of the iceberg, they're going to continue to push it until more than the tip, and there's going to be more iceberg than ocean for us to swim in. We're going to be, I think, subjected to even more and more harsher draconian measures in order to keep us safe. And we're going to have a lot of re-education in order to keep us safe in the coming weeks and months, quite possibly, as this situation just continues to roll on day to day, week to week, possibly month to month, who knows. But looking like we're going to be in this for the foreseeable future, and just who knows what next week's removal of freedoms and liberties will bring us. Anyway, let us know what you think in the comments below, folks. Thanks for watching this shit video production for TSP TV. We will see you in the next one. Until then, keep it thrifty.